Environmental organizations and climate change initiatives. 1. Role and impact of international environmental organizations UNEP, IPCC. International environmental organizations play crucial roles in addressing global environmental challenges, shaping policies, fostering sustainable practices, and raising awareness. Among the most influential are the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change IPCC, each with distinct but complementary functions. United Nations Environment Programme UNEP. Role UNEP is the leading global environmental authority within the United Nations system. Established in 1972, its mandate encompasses coordinating environmental activities, setting global environmental agendas, and promoting sustainable development. Key activities. Policy development and advocacy. UNEP facilitates international environmental treaties and agreements, such as the Paris Agreement on Climate Change and the Convention on Biological Diversity. It provides platforms for negotiation and collaboration among nations. Environmental assessment and reporting. UNEP conducts comprehensive assessments of global environmental conditions, producing influential reports like the Global Environment Outlook (GEO) that inform policymakers and stakeholders. Capacity building and technical assistance. It supports countries, especially developing nations, in enhancing their environmental management capabilities through training, resources, and technical expertise. Promoting sustainable practices. UNEP champions initiatives for sustainable resource management, pollution reduction, and the transition to green economies. Programs like the Clean Seas campaign aim to eliminate major sources of marine pollution. B. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change IPCC. Role. The IPCC is the foremost international body for assessing the science related to climate change. Established in 1988 by UNEP and the World Meteorological Organization WMO, its primary function is to provide policymakers with regular, objective scientific assessments. Key activities. Scientific assessment reports. The IPCC produces comprehensive reports evaluating the latest scientific research on climate change, its impacts, and potential mitigation and adaptation strategies. These reports are critical for informing global climate policies, special reports, and methodologies in addition to main assessments. The IPCC releases special reports on specific topics, such as global warming, pathways, and land use, and develops standardized methodologies for greenhouse gas inventories, facilitating global dialogue by bringing together thousands of scientists from around the world. The IPCC fosters collaboration and ensures that its findings reflect a broad consensus. 3. Other notable international environmental organizations. World Wildlife Fund WWF focuses on wildlife conservation, habitat protection, and combating climate change through advocacy, research, and on-the-ground projects. B. Greenpeace, renowned for its direct action and campaigns aimed at environmental protection, including issues like deforestation, overfishing, and fossil fuel dependency. C. The Nature Conservancy works to protect ecologically important lands and waters, promoting sustainable land use and biodiversity conservation. Collective impact. International environmental organizations collectively drive significant progress in environmental stewardship. They influence global policies, mobilize resources, and engage diverse stakeholders to address complex environmental issues. Their efforts have led to the preservation of critical ecosystems, advancements in sustainable technologies, and heightened global consciousness about the importance of environmental protection. 2. Global environmental treaties and agreements. Global environmental treaties and agreements are essential frameworks for addressing transboundary environmental issues, fostering international cooperation, and promoting sustainable development. Here are some of the most significant global treaties. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC and Paris Agreement. UNFCCC 1992 establishes a framework for international cooperation to combat climate change by stabilizing greenhouse gas concentrations. Paris Agreement 2015 builds on UNFCCC by setting binding targets for limiting global warming to well below 2°C, preferably to 1.5°C, through nationally determined contributions. Kyoto Protocol 1997, an extension of UNFCCC, it set legally binding emission reduction targets for developed countries. While it marked a significant step, its limited participation and enforcement challenges highlighted the complexities of global climate governance. Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD) 1992 aims to conserve biological diversity, promote sustainable use of its components, and ensure fair sharing of genetic resources benefits. It addresses issues like habitat loss, species extinction, and ecosystem degradation. Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora CITES 1973 regulates international trade of endangered species to ensure that such trade does not threaten their survival. It categorizes species into appendices based on their protection needs. Montreal Protocol on Substances that Deplete the Ozone Layer 1987 successfully phased out the production and consumption of ozone-depleting substances like CFCs. It is hailed as one of the most effective environmental treaties, significantly aiding ozone layer recovery. Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants 2001 targets the elimination or restriction of persistent organic pollutants, POPs that pose risks to human health and the environment. It focuses on chemicals like pesticides and industrial compounds. Ramsar Convention on Wetlands 1971 promotes the conservation and sustainable use of wetlands, recognizing their ecological importance and benefits for biodiversity, water purification, and flood control. Basel Convention on the Control of Transboundary Movements of Hazardous Wastes and Their Disposal 1989 regulates the international trade and disposal of hazardous wastes to protect human health and the environment from adverse effects. United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification UNCCD 1994 addresses land degradation in arid, semi-arid, and dry subhumid regions, promoting sustainable land management to combat desertification and mitigate the effects of drought. 3. Climate change initiatives and global cooperation. Climate change initiatives and global cooperation are crucial in addressing the escalating environmental crisis. Central to these efforts is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC, which provides a global platform for negotiating climate actions. The Paris Agreement 2015, under the UNFCCC, is a landmark initiative where nearly 200 countries committed to limiting global warming to well below 2°C, aiming for 1.5°C. Countries set nationally determined contributions. nets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate impacts. Global cooperation mechanisms include the Green Climate Fund (GCF), which mobilizes financial resources to support developing nations in mitigation and adaptation efforts. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) provides scientific assessments that inform policy decisions, ensuring actions are based on the latest research. Renewable energy initiatives like the International Solar Alliance promote the adoption of solar power, reducing dependency on fossil fuels. Carbon pricing mechanisms, such as carbon taxes and cap-and-trade systems, incentivize emission reductions across industries. Collaborative projects involve nations sharing technology, expertise, and best practices to enhance resilience and sustainability. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and the private sector also play vital roles in advocacy, innovation, and implementation of climate solutions. Despite progress, challenges such as funding gaps, political disagreements, and ensuring equitable participation persist. Strengthening global cooperation, enhancing transparency, and fostering inclusive policies are essential to achieve meaningful and sustained climate action. 4. Globalization and environmental organizations and climate change initiatives. Globalization significantly influences environmental organizations and climate change initiatives by enhancing connectivity and fostering international cooperation. It enables organizations like UNEP and WWF to operate across borders, share resources, and implement global strategies effectively. Through globalization, there is greater access to technology transfer, innovative solutions, and best practices, which are crucial for addressing complex environmental issues. Global networks facilitate the mobilization of financial resources and expertise, supporting large-scale climate initiatives such as the Paris Agreement and the International Solar Alliance. These collaborations help harmonize policies, set unified targets, and ensure coordinated responses to climate challenges. However, globalization also presents challenges. Diverse national policies, economic interests, and cultural differences can complicate consensus building and the implementation of uniform strategies. Additionally, the rapid spread of information can lead to misinformation, affecting public perception and policy support.